privatised prisons and forced police states where non-violent offenders languish for decades. Pharmaceuticals numb the mind, social media distracts the spirit, all while the very planet lurches towards an inevitable climate disaster that will extinguish humanity. The nightmare of human organ harvesting? That's not a gruesome song title from some forgotten old school death metal record. It's a headline from the Wall Street Journal. Against this backdrop of postmodern dystopia, chaos and confusion arrives Human Target, the earth-scorching fifth album from the extreme metal titans Thy Art Is Murder. The album will be released on July 26, 2019 via Nuclear Blast. Hold on to your asses. Things are about to get extreme. Thy Art Is Murder are pissed off, and Human Target is filled with all that anger. A record that pulls zero punches and might be the most intense record they've released to date, simply because of the myriad of subjects it addresses. Take the title track, for example. It is about the practice of organ harvesting in China, where the World Health Organization found a huge discrepancy in the number of organs volunteered by donors and the number of organs transplanted into the wealthy. A grim subject, made all the more real with the raging pit of deathcore noise the band create. The crunch of guitars, the blast beat drum assault, and ferocious lashing of the guttural. CJ sounds so passionate, and you can tell he believes every single word he is saying here. It's an ear-bleeding start, but it almost seems tame in comparison to New Gods. The absolute power exemplified by the roars and breakdowns is staggering. This is heavy, but not for the sake of being heavily. Simply put, Thy Art Is Murder couldn't do it any other way. And by targeting the role of social media in the mental health epidemic, it couldn't sound any more relevant. The previously released single Death Squad Anthem arrives next and sounds just as savage after many listens. Listen to this track quite a bit and it still is crazy. A track that champions the youth who are fed up with the current system, raising a fist in the air and screaming along. It's probably not a surprise though to learn that Make America Hate Again is an attack against the political system. Change hate to great, and we have a pretty famous political slogan after all. However, the band aren't targeting any one side, but rather the system as a whole. So don't get offended if you think it's leftist or rightist and so on. It's just a whole political system. They exude this stance with a frantic flaying of riffs, some of the more standout ones in the album. Enjoy the quieter start to Eternal Suffering, as it's the only time Thy Art ever really take their foot off the gas. It doesn't last long, of course, and what follows is one of the wilder tracks in the album, though once again it shakes the internal organs around with the chunkiest of beats. See, while this isn't the first album by the band that shows off their growth and how much they've changed over the years, it certainly feels like the most grown-up release they've had. Case in point, Atonement. A track that looks at sexual violence, much of which goes unreported, but is also a literal atonement of sorts for some of the band's less thoughtful lyrics. Long-term fans will know some of what those lyrics were, and it's pleasant to see the band acknowledge those mistakes, even if the subject matter is far from pleasant. Of course, that hardly means it shouldn't be talked about. Far from it. Thy Art Is Murder aren't afraid to discuss it, and in the only way they know how, by delivering an extreme metal experience that encourages involvement at the next live show where this track is dropped. It is gonna be chaos. Following that, we have Voyeurs into Death, an attack on the surveillance state and for-profit prisons. One of the strongest tracks in the album as it pulls out all the stops to take the hurricane of noise to another level. Sharp enough to cut, blunt enough to bludgeon. It's Thy Art at the top of their game, although some may get tired of the blast beat drumming. It's an exhausting listen. As with a lot of deathcore, you might find yourself drifting in and out, but that's not really possible with Human Target. Not only are the subjects covered interesting and educational, this is a band that knows how to keep the listener well and truly focused. So much so that without even realising it, it's just over. But not without one big bang though, as Chemical Christ deals with the religion of addiction. One final impactful subject covered in Thy Art's deathcore sermon way. It's such a satisfying closer and encapsulates the album perfectly. Thy Art Is Murder are pissed off, and Human Target is an ode to that anger. It's out on July 26th via Nuclear Blast. Make sure you check it out. Let us know what you think in the comments. We always love to hear. And hit that like and subscribe button.